Hello, wonderful people. My name is Oluwole Godwin, and welcome back to Emoji Economics. So we are still talking about the ISLM model, and in the previous classes, we've had two classes on the ISLM model right now. The first was on the introduction to the IS curve. The second was on what shifts the IS curve, and now we are talking about the LM curve. So we're introducing ourselves to the LM curve, and in the video after this, we shall be talking about what shifts the LM curve as well. Now, the LM curve is a curve that shows a different combination that shows, the LM curve is a curve that shows different combinations of interest rates and outputs yielding equilibrium in the money market. So the LM curve is a curve that shows different combinations of interest rates and outputs yielding equilibrium in the money market. So we'll get to that in a bit, to get to the graph of the graph of the LM curve in a bit. Alright, so in the money market, money demand equals money supply. Before unless you've been following this class before, let's be following us when we started from talking about the goods market, the money market, and the labor market. Unless you've followed us from there before, would you really understand some of the things we are going to do in this particular video? If you haven't, it might be a little bit better for you to just pause this video right now, go back to the channel and check the playlist section. Check the playlist section for money and the money market. Okay, because LM curve is talking about things that happen in the money market. So for you to have a preliminary understanding of what we are trying to say, for you to understand the basis, so just go to the playlist section, type Emoji Economics on YouTube, go to the playlist section, you see videos, playlist, and all of that. So just go to the playlist section and check money and the money market. So if you are to see maybe videos on IS curve and you really want to understand how we got to the IS curve as well, just do the same thing, but then check the video on the goods market. I think the goods market, aggregate expenditure for sure, whatever. That's the title of the playlist. So that's not about it. Now let's come back to this. So in the money market, money demand equals money supply. So from our previous classes, we understood that, or we thought, or we learned that money demand is a function of income, national income, or what we call the national output. It's proportional to the national output and is a function of the interest rate. All right. So at equilibrium, money supply equals money by direct. As equilibrium, okay. Sorry, I understand that now. So MD, this is the function for MD, money demand. So it's proportional to the national output and is a function of the interest rate. And money supply is just money supply. Now, this money supply is not dependent on the variables. Is not endogenously determined. It's not endogenously determined by maybe output or interest rate or whatever. So we assume that money supply is influenced by other factors besides all of this. It is influenced by what's the central bank really, the objective of the central bank. So, and the factors that the central bank looks at is not, or the Federal Reserve Bank, the factors they look at is not output of the economy or maybe the interest rate or all of that. So there are other things. We spoke more about that when we're talking about equilibrium in the money market. So which is also among the videos on the playlist I just asked you guys to see. All right, but if you think you can move on. Let's continue. So at equilibrium, money demand equals money supply. That's in the money market. That is the only point where money demand equals money supply. Because you could have a question, you have an essay question, and as you're solving, because we get the mathematics of all of these things, and they are not difficult at all. It can be really lengthy, they could be really long, but they are pretty much straightforward. So you don't just write money demand equals money supply and then you continue. It has to be stated explicitly that at equilibrium, money demand equals money supply, because it's only at one point that money demand equals money supply for a given amount of output and interest and all of that. So it's very important. So at equilibrium, money demand equals money supply equals M. Basically, that's equation 3. So from here we could just say money supply equals, since this is the function of money demand, so money supply equals this. We did all of this before now. So the new thing that we'll be bringing into this discourse now, or one of the new things that we're talking about now is this very next step. Divide both sides by P. Now, P is not price, the price that we did, or the price that you understand from the demand and supply analysis and all of that. PA is talking about the entire economy, so it's talking about the price level in the economy. Okay, so divide both sides by P such that real money demand equals real money supply at equilibrium. So by the time we divide both sides by P, so MS becomes MS over P. So instead of just having money supply, we have real money supply now. And YF into bracket I over P then becomes the real money demand. What am I saying? Okay, it's more or less coming back to this. So we have MS over P, which is real money supply, Oh, not this. Okay, back here. So we have this is now going to become MD over P. Real money demand equals MS over P. Real money supply, equals M, the equilibrium position. Or we just have, which is what I've written here. MS over P is the same thing. So whether real money demand equals real money supply, or real money supply equals real money demand, we are talking about the same thing. So MS over P equals MD over P. So real money supply equals real money demand. We need this to understand what we'll be doing. One of the things we'll be doing in the subsequent class is talking about things that can shift the LM curve. We also need this as well when we start talking about the ADAS curve, the aggregate demand and the aggregate supply curve. So let's it's going to get used to it from this particular period. Now let's get to the business of the day. LM curve is very, very simple to derive. It's simpler to derive than the IS curve. Alright, so we have two graphs. Just like the IS curve, this is where we're plotting our LM curve. So we have interest rate here, and we have the output here. So you can call it real output, or real national output, or real national income. All of these things are actually real. You have the real in brackets, and sometimes textbooks don't bother to mention it. But let's continue. And this is what happens in the money markets. This is the money market. We are trying to derive the LM curve from the money market. So I believe you all understand now that money supply is not a function of interest rate. If you have seen this classes I said, or if you've read around the money market, you'll realize that money supply is not a function of interest rate, like I explained earlier as well. And so it is stagnant. It's the same thing. So regardless of the interest rate, money supply is the same thing. However, money demand. So here we have real money supply now. So real money supply is not a function of the interest. So no matter the interest rate, the real money supply is the same. So whether the interest rate increases or decreases, the central bank wants to do what it wants to do. So if it doesn't want to increase the money supply, it doesn't do that, and it doesn't want to reduce. So that's why this is just constant. For more explanation, visit the previous classes as I mentioned. Now we have real money demand. So real money demand or money demand. Let's have a money demand itself. Money demand is a function of the interest rate. And so, we're talking about different motives for holding money. So, talking about liquidity preference in the classes, one of the classes as I mentioned, especially that class on equilibrium in the goods market, in the money market, equilibrium in the money market. So, it's very, very important that you see that. Okay, so we're talking about how money demand is related to the interest rate and as well interest rate and income. So, we have this transactionary motive for holding money and transactionary demand for holding money. Transactionary demand for money, speculative demand, and the precautionary demand for money. And so I comes in and talk about the speculative demand for money. Money is speculative demand for money is negatively related to the interest rate. And why comes in and talk about when we talk about transactionary as well as precautionary. Okay, interest rate also comes in when we talk about precautionary as well. So for more details, just visit the previous class. Please. No, that is not the objective of this video. Okay. So the higher the interest rates, the lower the real money demand, or the lower the money demand, or the lower the real money demand, and the lower the and vice versa, of course. Okay, so we have this. This is the equilibrium position. So this equilibrium is trying to tell us that there is a certain interest rate. There's a certain combination of interest rate and output that is giving us this equilibrium. So I could just call this point A. So I'll call this point A. So now we trace that out. So we have this interest rate and we have this output. So this interest rate and this output is giving us this result. Alright, it's giving us this result. Okay, and then what now happens? So this is where it might get a little bit funny, but please pay attention. When there is an increase in Y, okay, as is when there is an increase in output or whatever it is that you want to call it. So what is it going to affect? What motive, what demand for money is it going to affect? So when there is an increase in Y, there will be an increase in the transactional demand for money, and there will as well be an increase in the precautionary demand for money. Okay, there won't be any increase in speculative demand for money, of course. So an increase in the transactional demand for money and an increase in the precautionary demand for money. And since the total demand for money is equal to the precautionary demand for money, the transactional plus the transactional demand for money plus the speculative demand for money, and there is an increase in the transactional demand for money as well as an increase in the precautionary demand for money. So by the time you bring the two together, by the time you bring the two together plus the static precautionary demand for money, plus the static speculative demand for money, the total demand for money rises. Now, the total demand for money, let me come again. total demand for money is equal to the transactional demand for money plus speculative demand for money plus precautionary demand for money. So when Y increases, transactional demand for money rises, and precautionary demand for money rises. Speculative demand for money is the same. So two components of the total money demand is rising, and that increases money demand. Okay, so that is trying to tell us that when Y increases to, now look at it, when Y increases to Y1, when Y1 increases to Y2 rather, now you don't have Y on this curve, okay, on this graph, so we have money balance here, it's not output. That's where we have that. So when Y1 increases to Y2, what effect is going to have? From what I've explained, it's going to increase money demand. Okay, it's going to increase money demand. Now notice something. It wasn't the interest rates that changed. Okay, it wasn't the interest rate that changed. It was Y that changed. So an increase in money demand. So how do we notice? It's still the same high. Okay, so we might have something around here now, and then this would give us. Okay, let me use the other marker. So we have something like this now. No. Okay, so I will just manage to call this D over P. So let me just call this 1. So let me call this 2 MD. No, so let me call this 2. Alright, so we have a new what do you call it? We have a new real money demand curve, simply because it was Y that changed. Now, so it's telling that at the initial interest rate, if Y should change, what's going to happen to the money demand? So there's going to be an increase in money demand. So we move from point A to point B. But what is exactly going to happen? Instead of the fact that there is an increase in the real money demand by people in the economy, the Federal Reserve Bank or the central bank has not increased the money supply. Okay, the real money supply. It's decided to increase the real money supply. Okay, for whatever reason. Now, because of that, because they've not decided to increase the central bank has not increased the real money supply in the economy. So that means real money supply is still the same. Despite of the fact that there's an increase in real money demand now, real money supply is still the same. So something really has to happen. And what is going to happen? What's going to happen is that the price of money now has to increase. Okay, really has to, because what was in the economy before could cater for the amount of money in the economy before could cater for the demand for money. But now that it seems there is an excess demand for money since the real supply of money isn't changing, so there's an excess. Now, how do you take care of that? So what you have to do is, okay, we want this economy to get restored to its equilibrium position. Okay, to its equilibrium position. So what can we do? Okay, let's increase the price. There has to be an increase in the price of money. So something that would make, there is demand for money is more than the supply of money right now. So something that would not make people to something that will take that excess away. So and by the time we do that, there is a new equilibrium at this point, which we call point C. Okay, we call point C. So this is where the new we have MD to P2. So this is where the new curve is intersecting the old money supply. But we trace that here. When we trace that here, we have I2. So because there's an increase in real money demand and real money supply didn't change, there happens to be an increase in interest rates. Okay, there's an increase in interest rate. Now, how does that happen? When I said an increase in Y increases the transactional demand for money and the precautionary demand for money. Okay, so now what's to counterbalance that? To take that excess away. So there's going to be an increase in the interest rate. Now, an increase in interest rates would make other financial assets, more profitable to invest in, and that is going to reduce the speculative demand for money. Okay, so the reduction in the speculative demand for money is going to negate the increase that had happened. It's going to now because precautionary demand for money depends on two factors. At least talking about the model we've been discussing. So Y and I. All right. So an increase in the interest rate would first reduce the speculative demand for money because other financial assets are more profitable to invest in now. The returns on them is now greater, so people demand less. The speculative demand for money is going to reduce in that particular case, and precautionary demand for money as well, simply because a part of it depends on the interest rate. So the increase that occurs in y, is going to be negated partly by the increase by the increase in I as well. So if people decide to, okay, let me separate a part of my money to a part of my money for precautionary demands in the future, and there is an increase in interest rate, okay, people won't separate as much as they would have wished to separate if there wasn't an increase in the interest rate. Okay, so now all of these things work together, and at the end of the day, the economy is brought back to its initial equilibrium, just that it is occurring at a higher interest rate. So, like I said, please go through the class on equilibrium in the money market. Please, you have to go through that class to understand everything I'm trying to say in this particular class. And if you've gone through it before, so good luck. If you have any question, please, the comment section is for you, that box. Alright, so now this is what is happening. There's a new interest rate. So we just plot out these new interest rates out. We plot the new interest rates. Okay, remember that there was an initial increase in y. So when we plot the new interest rate, we have I2. So where is I2 going to be intersecting y? Now this is I2, and y is coming from this point. Okay, so what are we gonna have? We have this. Okay, so this is the LM curve. This is the LM curve. This is the LM curve. Don't mind my curve. It could be a straight line, and it's not necessarily meant to be a straight line. So that's LM curve. So LM curve is an increasing function of the interest rate. So the higher the interest rate, the higher the higher the movement on the LM curve. So I can call this point D, I can call this point E. So you move from here to here as the interest rate is rising. Yeah. So that's it. So LM curve is really, really simple to understand. So if you have any question, like I mentioned earlier, the comment box is for you. Make sure you see this previous class. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video, click on the subscribe button. You get a bell button immediately you click on the subscribe button. So click on that bell button. Bells are to create awareness. Alright, so it makes you aware of new classes. When we upload new classes, you get them once your data is on. Alright, so see you in the next video when we'll be talking about what shapes the LM curve. Thank you for watching. I'd like to see you there, really. Yeah.